All the Young Dudes by MsKingbean89. Prologue. Hope, 1965. You've never been a very clever girl, Hope. No, Mum. Hope stared into her cup of tea. No milk, just a sunny slice of lemon, served in a proper teacup with a saucer that had a matching rose-leaf design. She'd been supposed to receive a similar set when she'd got married, but Lyle hadn't wanted muggles at the reception. Her mother tutted loudly. I always said he was no good. A man like that, no family, no church. He never explained exactly what he did for work. He was in local government, Hope replied. She put the teacup down on the little end table in her mother's living room. Council? Her mum asked, brightening a bit. Well, that's something. Did he leave a pension? Anything at all? A little bit. But I want to keep it by for Remus. Her mother tutted again. She thought it was a silly name. Hope had tried to compromise, and given her son her own father's name too, but Remus John sounded even worse, according to her mother. Mrs. Jenkins preferred to pretend that Hope's little boy didn't exist at all, even when he was sleeping in the bedroom upstairs. Hope wanted to go and check on him now, give him a cuddle, but she didn't dare get up. Her mother would call it coddling, and Hope didn't want to fight. He was sleeping a lot. It was probably normal for 5-year-olds. But Remus wasn't a normal 5-year-old. Not anymore. A pain struck Hope deep inside her chest. Heartbreak. She bowed her head, letting her hair fall forward, closed her eyes and let the tears run past her lashes. She sniffed. I need you, Lyle. How could you do this to me? And what do you plan to do for money? I can't support you, not at my age. I thought I could go back to the exchange, Hope said, barely above a whisper. Gavin said when I left I could come back if I wanted to. They always need operators. He had a soft spot for you, as I recall, her mother said. She sounded thoughtful. She wasn't really talking to Hope now, she was planning. Hope was familiar enough with the way her mother's mind worked, always scheming, tidying up and smoothing over, making corrections. The past 6 years had been a mistake, soon to be corrected. This was nothing new to Hope. Other people had been making decisions for her all her life. First her mother, who advised her to leave school early and get a job at the telephone exchange. Then Lyle, who she had followed into another world entirely. Now he was gone and it was back to Mother. You've never been a very clever girl. She hadn't even been asked about the funeral. It was all taken care of by his people. Strange little men in robes who could arrange anything with a wave of their wand. They were very kind to Hope, but they treated her like a child, and a particularly stupid one at that. One of them took all of Lyle's things, his books and his wand. She was allowed to keep the house, but was advised to sell it on. It's really a wizard's house, Mrs. Lupin. They smiled thinly. Not suited to Muggle habitation. Of course you're welcome to try. But no. The charms Lyle had put in place wouldn't let her in anymore, and anyway, she needed the money. The wizards had a vague interest in Remus, though she'd done her best to keep him hidden from view. Lyle had put the fear of God in her about that. If anyone so much as suspected what had happened to her little boy, they'd take him away and lock him up. Has he shown any magical ability? One tall, quiet man had asked. He had a long white beard and piercing blue eyes, and Hope was terrified of him. She nodded. He makes all the dinner plates float sometimes, she confirmed. She didn't mean anything else, Ruth. Head down. The first time the change had come over him, the first time her poor baby had been turned inside out by that awful curse, he'd been so frightened he'd vanished the door, and Lyle had to barricade him in the china cabinet in the end. Perhaps that had been the last straw for Lyle. That's very good, the old man smiled. He'll receive his Hogwarts letter after his 11th birthday. She hadn't known what to say to that, but tried to look pleased. Hope wanted Remus to be like his father. Better than being like her, anyway. She couldn't see how he would ever get into an exclusive school like that, not now. Hope, are you listening to me? Her mother snapped. Hope blinked up and looked up. Sorry, Mum. I was asking about the boy. You said you made arrangements? Oh, yes. The old man who'd asked about Remus had helped her with that, too. He was nice about it. He said it was entirely up to her, but that he knew somebody if she needed help, somebody who would be discreet. He put her in touch with a woman called Mrs. Orwell who ran a home for boys. It was in Essex. Maybe Remus would do better if he got his start in England. It wasn't as if there were any better opportunities in Wales. Hope knew how difficult it was, feeling like an outsider. Remus would have enough of that already. "I'll take him tomorrow," Hope said to her mother. "We'll get the train." "Shall I come with you, Carrot?" Her mother softened. She always did when Hope was being obedient. Hope shook her head. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she barely noticed that anymore. It was hard to believe she hadn't shriveled up like a raisin, all the tears she'd shed lately. Her mother got up and came to sit on the arm of the sofa. She put an arm around Hope and squeezed her gently. There, my love. It's the right thing. The best thing. You're young still, you'll bounce back. Give it a year or so, and it'll be as if none of this ever happened, I promise you." Hope wiped her eyes and got up, pulling away from her mother. "I'm going to check on him. I don't know if that's wise. I'm going to check on my son, Mother." She climbed the narrow stairs slowly. Brown carpet, brown wallpaper. Everything felt so mundane after Lyle. She felt like Judy Garland at the end of The Wizard of Oz. The hurricane had passed and the world returned to black and white. Hope had never understood why Dorothy was so happy to be home. Who wouldn't choose color? At the top of the dark little landing, Hope was presented with 3 closed doors: her parents' room, the bathroom, and her childhood bedroom. Her current bedroom, actually, until she could save up enough for an escape. She thought of Lyle's money again. No, that wasn't hers. She pushed open the door, slowly. It didn't creak, but the carpet always caught and made an unpleasant noise if you shoved it. Inside, the thin yellow curtains were drawn, casting everything in a warm, buttery glow. Her black funeral dress was hung up on the door of the wardrobe. She bought it specially because she'd never owned anything black before. It had cost a fortune. They'd all been in robes, Lyle's friends, and she had felt like the odd one out. It was so strange to be back in this room. Everything seemed small and ancient, though in truth it had only been 6 years since she'd last slept here. Everything was still in its place. Her little white-painted wicker dressing table, which probably still had a hidden packet of cigarettes in one of the bottom drawers, along with the lipsticks and eyeshadows she and her father had fought over when she was 15. A poster of the monkeys on the wall over the bed, next to an Arthur Rackham print. Strangest of all was the little boy curled up on the lavender bedspread, still fast asleep, all golden curls and chubby cheeks and fat little fists. Her heart skipped a beat, as it had from the very first moment she'd held him in her arms. Her baby boy. She sat carefully on the bed and lay down beside him. He stirred a little, yawned and stretched out. She brushed her fingers lightly against his cheek. She loved that perfect baby skin, so soft and unblemished. Except he was blemished, now. Little graze just under his jaw. Could be passed off as just the usual sort of scrape. Children were always bumping into things, falling over. Not Remus. He was such a careful little boy. He watched everything. She curled her body around his, turning her back on the rest of the room. When Remus was first born, she hadn't been able to get out of bed for days, but he was such a peaceful little baby they'd both lain just like this, keeping each other company. Lyle would get in from work and come and join them. He would wrap his own long limbs around Hope, and she would cocoon Remus and close her eyes and just feel so safe and so happy. If only Lyle was here now. It was the touch of him she missed the most. He was so tall, even when Hope wore her highest heels, he would rest his chin on the top of her head. The tears stung in her eyes, and she lay her hand softly on Remus's chest, feeling the steady rise and fall. Sometimes, on those afternoons the little family lay in bed together, Lyle would sing an old lullaby to Remus. Hope had never heard it before, but she loved the way he sang it. It was the only time you could hear the soft Scottish accent in his voice. She hummed a few bars now, wondering if Remus remembered that his daddy had sung for him, and only for him. Baloo, my boy, lie still and sleep. It grieves me sore to hear thee weep. If thou'lt be silent, I'll be glad. Thy moaning makes my heart full sad. Baloo, my boy, thy mother's joy, thy father bred me great annoy. Baloo, 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 Baloo. Oh, Lion Lupin, you bastard. It was an impossible burden to hate somebody you couldn't help loving. How could he put her in this position? He must have known she couldn't do it alone. She wasn't magic like him. She wasn't strong. She had never been a very clever girl. She was crying again, but Hope had learnt to cry without making a sound. Maybe that was just being a mother, though what right she had to that title she didn't know. She pulled her son's warm little body close to hers, not caring if she woke him up. She could feel his tiny heart beating against her own. Remember this, she begged him silently. I love you.